So with yet another new card, bringing my total cards I've ever had to 16 and earning over $30,000 of value over that time, I thought I'd share my exact journey from my first card till now, along with my experience and thoughts at every step of the way. I spend way too many hours watching YouTube, and one of my favorite things to watch are other people's setup, given that everyone has their own different journeys. And I think mine is a pretty uncommon one, especially when it comes to which cards in what order. And no, I did not start with the Chase trifecta. And that's because those cards just didn't exist when I was applying for my very first credit card, because I wasn't even in the US at the time. In fact, later this month in August marks my 6th year working and living full-time in this country. Before that, I was born, raised, and went to school through university up in Canada. And so in my situation, I didn't get to build my US credit history, let alone apply for a US credit card till my early 20s. I did, however, get my first US credit card before moving down here full-time, but we'll get to that. So I'm from Canada, and before I moved down here, I wasn't that interested in credit cards in the first place. But honestly, even today, there's a night and day difference between the quality of cards you can get in Canada versus here in the US. Heck, it's even hard to find a no annual fee, no foreign transaction fee card in Canada. Whereas here in the US, there's plenty, like the Capital One Saver One or the Wells Fargo Autograph card. That said, I'll always remember my very first credit card around 16 to 18 years old, which was the Bank of Montreal SPC MasterCard. Now, most of you have probably never heard of this card, but Bank of Montreal, or BMO, is one of Canada's big 5 banks. And the SPC MasterCard comes with a free SPC membership for the year, which would have costed $10 to $12. Things have changed a lot since then, but the gist of this membership is getting perks and discounts at very student-focused brands, like getting a free upsize when ordering at certain coffee shops, discounts at H&M, Samsung, Adidas, and more. Honestly, it was pretty nice back then walking into a store and seeing that SPC sticker at the cashier, so you know that you're getting some sort of perk. Other than that, this card helped me kick off my Canadian credit history, but there's nothing really special about this card otherwise. And then when I graduated, they automatically converted me to one of Bank of Montreal's reward MasterCards, which is a no annual fee card that gives you 1 point per dollar. And because it was a product change, I got no welcome bonus out of it. Alright, so that was Canada. Here is where my US journey begins. So I went to school for computer science, and like most people, forgot like 90% of the things we learned, but I was able to do a few internships, one of which was actually here in Seattle. So summer of 2015 comes around, I go down to Seattle, and within the first week, I'm opening my bank account so, well, I can get paid. I go to a nearby local branch of one of the big banks, show them my offer letter and any other details they need to help me open those accounts. Not thinking much of it at the time, but the person that was helping me just casually asked, "Hey, do you want to open a credit card along with your account?" And of course, I said, yeah, why not? And I didn't even have my SSN number yet because that was still processing, given it was just the first week. And that card was the Bank of America Travel Awards card. I had no idea what was great about this card, just knowing that it had no annual fees and no foreign transaction fees, which was already hard to get in Canada. It also let me use my earned USD back in Canada and abroad without paying any fees, which both came in real useful when I was going on my grad trip over in Asia. But most importantly, this helped me a ton when I finally moved down to the US a couple years later and started full-time, since it gave me a head start on my US credit history. Unfortunately, I had completely forgotten about this card years later and had it closed for inactivity, which at that time did affect my score quite a bit, given length of credit history is a portion of your FICO score. Alright, so after that internship, I went back to Canada to finish my schooling and did another internship in the US, although I didn't really do any new cards at that time. Then through internships came a full-time offer, and so after graduating, I moved down to Seattle to work full-time, which is where my US credit card journey really starts. And being a person who loves to find deals and getting the best value of things, credit cards and the rewards probably caught my eye. At that time, I think the Chase Sapphire Reserve was just released and had their never seen again 100,000 point welcome offer, and I remember that vividly because I wanted to apply, but it didn't match with my timeline moving down to the US. Whether I would have gotten approved for it given it was my first real credit card in the US, I'm not sure, but I did have a couple years of credit history under my belt. On the bright side, because I was doing the research already, the Chase Sapphire Preferred seemed like the next best thing to get. I believe it also had a welcome bonus of around 60,000 points at the time, so within a month of moving down to the US in 2017, I applied and got approved for the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, my second US credit card. Unfortunately, shortly after, they implemented the 24-month rule for Sapphire bonuses, and when that time came around, they upped the rule to 48 months instead. What a bummer. I won't go too much into detail, but the Chase Sapphire Preferred has been a workhorse of a card for the longest time, being the go-to card for whenever I'm out of the country, as well as for my traveling and dining expenses, which is a bulk of my spend. Heck, I still had the old design of the card as well. This is also the card that got me to deep dive into maximizing my Chase points, which at the time I didn't really realize how valuable they were. Cool, so next on the list is a card that doesn't really exist anymore, and that's a Marriott Rewards Premier card. Basically, in 2017, I had a couple work trips coming up and would have been staying at Marriott properties. So my thought was to maximize that spend, let's go for a popular hotel card, and so that's what I did. I don't remember using the card much outside of Marriott property spend, but it did come with a 25,000 point reward certificate that rolled over. That really only became useful after Marriott added the 15K top up to allow you to book at some nicer hotels. Then between the welcome bonus and various Marriott spend for work trips, I accumulated over 250,000 Marriott points that was just sitting there for many years. It wasn't until 2013 that I redeemed 159,000 points for 5 nights at the AC Hotel Tokyo Ginza, where the nightly cost was over $440 a night at the time, giving me a redemption value of 1.4 cents per point, much higher than the average 0.8 cents target. I still have some Marriott points without an immediate use, but any trip that uses the 5th night free perk usually has good value. Alright, so a quick summary so far, we got some Canadian cards. Then in the US, number 1, we have the Bank of America Travel Rewards card. Number 2, the Sapphire Preferred. Number 3, the Marriott Rewards Premier card. And now number 4 is one that you probably wouldn't have guessed people get this early in their journey. Which is why I think my journey is definitely not the most common one. And that's because my 4th US credit card, about a year after I moved down to the US, so about 2018, is actually the American Express Platinum card, which had the original $550 annual fee before going up to $695 in 2021. Till this day, this card is still giving me a ton of value every year, breaking even just by using a few credits. The $200 hotel credit I use on FHR, mainly in Vegas every year. The airline fee credit I use to upgrade my seats to premium class, which means more legroom and earlier boarding. The Uber credit that pretty much gets used up in the first week of every month. The Saks Fifth Avenue credit for gifts every year. And more recently, the $189 Clear credit that enhances my airport experience. And as long as I'm using all of these credits every year, this card is gonna stay a keeper. Because that means all the other perks on the card are essentially free. From hotel status giving me updates both domestically and internationally, Amex partners to get 2 cents or more in points value, travel, purchase and return protections saving me hundreds of dollars every year when shopping online, and of course Amex offers, which are one of the more lucrative ones out there. There's way more to this card, but we have plenty to cover, so if you want my 4-year experience with the card, check out the video up above. Now after the Amex Platinum, I didn't get a new card for over a year and a half because I was focused on work among other things, but also because I got a 50,000 point retention offer towards the end of that year, so I took that offer. At that point, there weren't that many high bonuses. This was around early 2020. But one that was recommended at the time was the Chase United Explorer card. And because I was under 524, I thought, hey, let's give it a shot. Unfortunately though, this has been a pretty forgettable incredible card. There was a decent welcome bonus of 60 to 80,000 points at that time, but this is the card that taught me to really look at my situation to see if certain cards really do fit my lifestyle or not. Because I'm in Seattle, which is a big Alaska hub, with barely any United flights at all. So I really couldn't benefit from the extra miles you get for your spend or free checked bags. In fact, all of the United miles that I earned from this card is still sitting in my account, getting devalued over and over. If you know a good way to use these points, let me know down below, but with the lack of United flights, points devaluations, and most of my Star Alliance bookings going through Aeroplan, I haven't really found a good use. And so 1 year later, I decided to product change the card down to the Chase United Gateway card, which has no annual fee, but still allows me to keep the spending history I had on the card and not affect my credit score that much. Other than that, there's not much going on for this card other than an important lesson to be more intentional about which cards I get going forward. Because from here on out, I think I started taking credit cards more seriously, and I'd have to say I think I did pretty well. Because the next card I got in early 2021 was the Chase Freedom Flex card, a card that was pretty overdue at this point, but also was the perfect timing given it not only had the $200 or 20,000 points for the welcome bonus, it also had the 5 times points for grocery store spend up to $12,000 in the first year, which meant there was pretty heavy spend put on this card for the next while, including on the 5x categories every quarter. In either case though, between the Freedom Flex and the Sapphire Preferred, I've probably accumulated 300,000 to 400,000 points on these two cards alone. But up until recent years, I've heavily relied on these cards for most of my spending. Now some of you might wonder if I ever got the Chase Freedom Unlimited to complete the trifecta. Well, honestly, I don't really think the Unlimited fits my setup that much, because a lot of my spend is in food and travel, which is covered on categories on some of my cards, and outside of that, if I'm working on a welcome bonus, then that's the card I'd be putting most of my spend on. And if I really have spend outside of that, it all goes on this card I got in late 2021, and that's the Capital One Venture X card, still one of my favorite cards. And the card whose 2 credits, the $300 travel credit and $100 worth of miles every anniversary year, more than covers the $395 in annual fees. It was definitely a hard welcome bonus to hit, with $10,000 of spend to get the 100,000 points welcome bonus. But fortunately, it was around Black Friday and the holidays, so I was able to squeeze out that spend. This card also let me diversify my points a bit through to Capital One, which fortunately also transfers to one of my favorite partners, Aeroplan, which helped me book my 2 major trips this year, along with offering me perks like Hertz President Circle, which benefits me when I'm going for car rentals. Till this day, this is still my non-category spend catch-all card that more than pays for itself as long as I use those 2 credits. And compared to portals like Chase or American Express, Capital One has been pretty solid in terms of pricing versus that of other sites like Google. So personally, I haven't had any issues with the portal yet. Honestly, this card is overpowered, and you can hear about my 1-year experience up in the corner, but I really hope they don't devalue it anytime soon, although they already have with the removal of non-lounge benefits on the priority pass. Anyway, so I got the Venture X and again slowed down my credit card journey because I already had most of the cards that covered the bulk of my spend, and travel really wasn't happening during that time. But about a year later in 2022, there were some offers that I really couldn't let slip by. At this point, I was already off my work visas and had my green card, and my YouTube channel had been growing steadily. And so it was the perfect time to capitalize on the increased offers of 90,000 points on the Chase Inc. Unlimited card. Again, with holidays around the corner and lots of sales, I had to push a little bit to hit that $7,500 minimum spend. And I say $7,500 because I applied for the card when it was still the old offer, but they did up me to the 90,000 point offer, though I still had to spend the 7,500. Honestly, not much more about this card other than it being a great 1.5 times catch-all card and having a high welcome offer, which was so amazing that early this year in 2023, I applied for the other Chase Inc. card, the Chase Inc. Cash. With equipment purchases, paying my editor and whatnot, I really couldn't let go of the 90,000 point offer here. Especially because not too long before this, I booked my 2 major trips for this year for a total of 5 business class trips over to Asia valued at over $26,000. That was a lot of points burned, probably 500,000 to 600,000 points. So it was a nice way to use both of these ink cards to recharge my chase balance, which as we all know is one of the best points out there. Then also early this year, I felt that with so many different cards already covering a bunch of my spend, the Chase Sapphire Preferred had been on the back burner for a long time, just paying the $95 in annual fee. The $50 hotel credit was also hard to use and didn't take priority compared to other credits like on the Amex Platinum. And so I decided to product change it down to the no annual fee basic Freedom card, which not only saves some money and keeps my spending history with the card, it also has the 5 times points quarterly category similar to the Freedom Flex, and up to a separate $1,500 every quarter. So if it's a quarter with a useful category, I can kind of double up on that type of spend. That said, as the year went on, I was having trouble figuring out which card I would get next, especially given I was and am going on lengthy Asia trips this year. So spend can be put on this card when I was traveling, as well as through booking and accommodations for later this year. At the same time, there was an elevated bonus of 80,000 points on the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Given I was way more than 48 months since my initial Sapphire bonus, I qualified. So I decided why not and went for the Sapphire Preferred. We also realized that I may have more trips later this year, so it would be good to have a Sapphire card to allow transferring my Chase points to travel partners and redeeming that way. Then in late June of this year, 2023, an all-time high offer on the Amex Green popped up, so I had to jump on that as well. I've been saying for years that I really want the Amex Gold, with its 4 times points on the dining and grocery store spend. But unfortunately, there was no major elevated offer at that time. So instead, the 60,000 points plus 20% cashback up to $200 offer on the Amex Green had to do. With trip planning continuing and booking for 5 people, the $200 welcome bonus portion was easy to hit, as was the $3,000 to spend to get that welcome bonus. And even though there is a $150 annual fee on this card, the $200 portion of the welcome bonus already more than covers it. The rest of the bonus are very valuable Amex points, which are just second to Chase in my opinion. But what was also great about this card are the multipliers, with 3 times on travel, transit, and restaurants worldwide, which really boosted my points earnings through all of my bookings. I mean, hotel bookings fall under travel, trains like the Shinkansen will fall under the transit, and of course you're going to eat, so that falls under restaurants. Also, because it's pretty common for Amex to not do a hard pull on your second card onwards, it benefited me because I was at that time also about to apply for an auto loan and really wanted the best credit score for the best interest rates. Fortunately, I didn't get a hard pull and was able to get basically the lowest rate at the time. And all of that brings us to today with the delivery of my newest credit card. One that completes a certain trifecta and has the potential to replace my Chase Sapphire Preferred with its special ability, and that's with the Chase Ink Preferred card. Combined with the Chase Ink Unlimited and Chase Ink Cash card, they make up the Chase Business Trifecta, with cards that cover a wide variety of spend across some pretty nice categories. The Ink Preferred also comes with the ability to transfer Chase points out to travel partners, which means that it's possible to replace my Chase Sapphire Preferred down the line, so I don't need to pay $95 for each of these cards every year. This card is amazing to have, but I usually wouldn't get this card because in order to get the 100,000 point welcome bonus, you would have needed to spend $15,000 in 3 months. But with a recent offer, that drops to just $8,000 in 3 months, which makes it a bit more within reach, so I had to jump on it. I won't bore you with all the details, so check out this video for all the details and my application process. And that's it. That's all 16 cards I've had the pleasure of owning throughout my credit card journey so far. But here are a few things you need to know. I did this all while never paying a cent in interest charges or late fees. always, always, always pay your bill in full and on time every single month. 2, fortunately, I haven't been denied for a card I've applied for yet. Maybe that's because of my credit profile, I'm not too sure. 3, throughout this journey, I've pretty much maintained a credit score between the mid and high 700s, likely because I keep my credit utilization ratio down in the 1 to 2% range. Also, I never had to really stretch hard to hit certain minimum spend. Employ tactics like only considering cards when you have big spend coming up, or paying for your group of friends and getting paid back later. And if you're wondering, no, I do not come from any rich family. Every dollar spent on paying off any of these bills comes from my own job and earnings. But above all else, not only are these credit cards and rewards fun to me, it's even more rewarding to use these points towards experiences for my close ones that they would have never experienced otherwise. So that's now, but what about the future? My strategy is shifting a bit, so go on and check out this video for a full breakdown on exactly what and why. See you over there.